And the game starts. Map number 2. The player to the bottom left is down a game. He has to win it if he wants to have a chance of advancing into the next round of Codes. He's playing for the StarTale team, and his idea is
StarTale Squirtle.
Like most of his StarTale teammates, he seems very focused on the game. Emotions are not something he's feeling right now. His opponent at the top left, in the blue from the team TSL, 1 win away from the round of 8. His ID is
GSL Symbol.
Symbol made it happen on the last map, and wow, look at him. One deep breath, trying to calm down right now and trying to focus on the game at hand. One map, that's all he needs. But that's all that Squirtle needed earlier. That's all that Squirtle needed against MC. And then the SK player won the next 2 maps and advanced to the next round of Codes. Who's he gonna be? Will the runner-up of the last GSL season, will he drop out of the competition, or will he advance?
Right now, I'm looking at the map stats in Korea for this map, and it's been played a lot, even though it hasn't been out that long. It's been played 61 games, and Zerg has won 30, Protoss has won 31 in this matchup. So actually, statistically speaking, this is the most balanced matchup for this map. Even though it's a style that a lot of Protoss players feel comfortable with, they don't win most of the time. I mean, that's something to consider. That's something I like to mention. I mentioned this probably about a month and a half ago. I remember when people were always picking this map against Zerg, and the stats consistently show this reality that it's a very balanced map as far as wins go. Does that mean it's balanced 100% just because the win rate's around 50? That doesn't necessarily mean that, no. But as far as wins go, it's about half and half.
I would like to have the numbers exactly, how many games they actually take into consideration when they say this, and
that was Korea only. I can show you international as well.
Now we can. I think we can talk about this another time, and then because this I feel is going to be a little bit of a longer discussion, because I can just not picture this to be really the case. But well, as it is, it doesn't really matter. We have the scouting already with the Overlord for Symbol. He knows at the bottom left exactly where his opponent is positioned. We have one small, the pylon block, and this forced Symbol to take his 3rd base. So we talked about this map a little bit, but just to go over it once again, what is different on Entombed Valley is that the 3rd base is a lot more accessible for the Protoss player. So what you usually are facing as a Protoss is the choice whether you want to go for a 2-base timing or if you want to try to take a 3rd base and secure it, which is not that easily accomplished because you spread yourself out very thin. This is exactly what we saw on Daybreak. Squirtle trying to take the 3rd base and Symbol answering with this drop play, making sure that he had to face like 2 attacks at the same time, and the Protoss player was not able to withstand this. So on this map, you have only 2 choke points as soon as you take your 3rd base that you have to defend. And with force fields, with good cannon placement, and with a wall off with the buildings, it's usually not a big problem for you to do so. And with the 3rd base, the economy of a Protoss player is so much better. With all the gas that you mine, you have a lot more options of what you can actually go for, the kind of buildings that you get. The Zerg has no opportunity of actually putting on early game aggression, and then quite often we see the Protoss move out and take the 4th base, and that is where most of the battles actually occur.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what I described earlier with the Vortex and the Broodlords. There's a gap, there's a huge hole in the ground right next to the 4th base location. The Broodlords often occupy that space. The only way to approach them is to use the Mothership, use that cloaking, use the Vortex. Robotics going down for Squirtle here. We are at close positions by air, I guess you could say. I mean, unless you're cross positions, you are kind of close by air in a sense, but we may see him do some sort of sentry drop. It's a little bit tough in these positions, though. I really think that it's just going to be for Immortals, and he's going to safely take a 3rd. He's already starting to work on those rocks a little bit with the Stalker. Doesn't have +1 research, though, interestingly enough.
We could also see later on in the game Mutalisk attack. Mutalisks are pretty good on these positions because you can bounce between the 3 bases. Most Protoss players go for an early blink though, and then they are able to shut down the Mutalisk aggression, especially when they, in addition, use some cannons in the mineral lines. We already have the tech for Symbol, while Squirtle started with his robotics. So he starts an Immortal actually right away, and I'm a bit curious to see what Squirtle is going to do. I like his build so far, the aggression that he showed, and I would not put it past him to try to go for some kind of 2-base attack, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, with him attacking the rocks, it's a little bit unlikely, but it's it's one of the options that he has. But it's always the question, why would you do it? Because on this map, if you really go for a 2-base timing attack on Entomb, then you kind of have in mind that your opponent is not expecting it, and is actually expecting you to take a 3rd base.
The Overlord has not seen the rocks being destroyed. He has not gone into the main base to check for that 2-base timing yet. He has seen only the Robo, and that's going to be, I mean, it doesn't tell him anything except that, okay, there are going to be some Immortals out. I have to also be prepared for a Sentry drop. But about the 3rd base, he's not going to know until it's either taken or he goes into the main and checks to see what there is. There's just 3 gateways going up, putting him up to 4, and this looks just like a 4th base. In fact, it is going to be, or rather 3rd base. He's chasing away the Overlord. He's not even going to be able to see the Nexus, but he knows. He's going to make a wall at the ramp as well with gateways, cannons, and we're going to see Vortex Valiant.
Symbol is gearing up a little bit, just getting a few units, taking down these rocks as well. He knows that he needs to do it in order to defend against incoming pressure play. At the same time, also spreading his creep, trying to cover the ground in front of those 2 bases to give him an additional speed bonus against the units of his opponent. And once again, the drop play. This is something that he's really comfortable with. And, well, we talked about this drop style against Protoss a lot when we were casting the Code A qualifier, and we saw TLO do it against a lot of players. It was actually a really great performance by him. In the end, he did not qualify for Code A, but just the style that he showed was very strong, very unpredictable. And he did something that we have not seen out of Symbol or any of the other players just yet. Sending empty Overlords, just pure Overlords into his opponent's space. Always faking. Oh, nice. Whoa. Well, that should not happen.
No, it should not have, but ends up being a pretty good trade for Symbol.
A really good trade. He kills a lot of sentries here. Does a lot of damage. But coming back to the point, if your opponent already knows that you are someone who likes to drop, and you start to send a couple of Overlords into your opponent's main base, sometimes they're empty, the next time you send like 2, and then you suddenly send 3, and they have a few Zerglings loaded up and can drop them, then you can just completely freak your opponent out. So it's also mind games that you should always try to mix in here.
Yeah, this attack is, by the way, really cool. You hardly ever see a Protoss being the aggressor off of 3 base. He just takes the Watchtower and moves back a little bit. Now he's moving forward with the Warp Prism. Warp Prism is spotted by the Overlord. Symbol knows this is coming. He does have drops and speed almost done, but they're not going to really help him here. Yeah, he could try to drop on top of this army and avoid the force fields, but, I mean, there are so many Immortals.
Yeah, but the army is way too small. With all the energy that he lost, and also with the drop play that we now have, the energy that has been lost, no blink available, and the sentries that he killed earlier, I don't think this is going to happen.
We'll see.
But he's going to try.
He's moving in, and the Overlords are already lifted. This is going to be really, really useful in holding against this type of attack. This is probably why we saw it last game as well. Here we go. Force fields are not useful. He does not have blink this time either.
And he drops force fields. He has to try to take down these Immortals. This is going to be very important, and he immediately focus fires one of them. But the force fields, they do a decent job nonetheless, even though it was dropped. Squirtle dropping in supply, but Symbol is moving in, and GG!
That was it, man.
He cancelled the 3rd base. He cancelled the 3rd. It was trying to go for the 2-base timing.
That was insane. I did not expect that attack at all, and Symbol was ready for it with the Overlord drops. I didn't think of it at all in the second game when he got Overlord drops of speed. I was like, yeah, I don't know why he's thinking of the drop. You were on that a little bit, but it looks like that's actually his defensive way to deal with this timing push, to drop over the force fields. I think that's actually his plan, but both games.
Yeah, but this only works if your opponent is not going for Blink Stalker builds. Against the Blink Stalker build, you'd simply die. You simply die. Your opponent will blink back, focus Overlord after Overlord, always retreat a little bit, and he will never be caught. Against this push, it works. It was really well done. Squirtle actually tried to trick him, going for the 3rd base, going for this wall in, and he cancelled it. He cancelled the 3rd base and was just moving in. But with Symbol, well, first of all, it already went so when we had the sentries caught out of position.
Yeah, that really affects your
How
push a
many
lot.
did he lose?
He lost about 3 or 4, and then he went back up to 10. That's 1,000 gas plus the 3 or 4 he lost. That's 1,400 gas. That means less stalkers. He had to spend more warp-ins, so he had less units in general than he would have had. And the way he attacked, I mean, it was so late that his opponent had those roaches ready in the overlords, and he defended beautifully.
Against this push, I really love the idea of the drop. That is actually something that never really occurred to me. I talked to a lot of Protoss players as well, what kind of strategy they have a problem with when they are trying to execute this push. And most of them are like, okay, the infestors are going to be a problem as soon as they start to fungal your sentries. Run-bys and flanks can be really, really scary. But drop play is something that I've never really considered when it comes down to dealing with the immortal timing push.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So,
I'm actually really interested to see if this is going to become more normal, because you remember a time where people were doing just blink stalker pushes, and then people were like, well, what if I just get burrow? And then people figured out, well, what if I go with +2 and an observer in blink? And, you know, it's kind of like this evolution of learning how to deal with these pushes.
As we said, you have to have the scouting information, because against blink stalkers, you are dead. If there are only blink stalkers and nothing else in your army, you just blink back individually, you focus on a couple of overlords, you retreat, and as soon as he tries to move back, you can even, well, blinking in is be a little bit difficult, but still. We just saw Squirtle leave, and he has to be really disappointed. The day started so well for him.
Yeah, it absolutely did.
He 2-0'd Symbol and started into the winner's match, and then he loses to MC. Right now, he has to face Symbol again, and Symbol, man, he was so happy. He was just able to claim victory in only 2 games.
Imagine how
against
he felt
an opponent that lost earlier.
He was up a game against MC, and his 4-gate was held.
Oh,
imagine
God.
that feeling of that. At that moment, if a few things had been microed a little bit differently, he could have actually been out of here 2 hours ago. But that was not the case. So close, but now he's so far. He's going to go to the round 3 of Code A. We'll be casting him in just a few weeks. And if he wins, he gets back in.
You know what that means? MVP yesterday, Squirtle today.
They're both out.
Exactly. The 2 players that were in the last GSL Code S final dropping down to the 3rd round of Code A, they will have to prove themselves. I would not have believed it if anyone would have told me.
Yeah,
like,
I would not have been able to predict this.
both of them.
No way.
Marine King as well. This is crazy, guys. There he is. There is Symbol. And oh, wow. He is really, really happy.
Yeah, he should be. Definitely deserves his win. So we're going to take a look at, of course, today's results. We're going to put them up on screen for you guys so you can see basically how the entire group rounded out. So you guys see it graphically. There it is. SKMC taking first place, advancing to the round of 8, beating Squirtle in the winner's match. Then Symbol beating Squirtle in that final match to advance to the round of 8, 2-0. And as you can see, 2 wins, 1 loss. Then, of course, Marine King getting 4th place. Both of those players, I don't think anyone expected to. I mean,
to me, the story today is MC and Marine King.
Yes.
This group is insane. We talked about it, group of death, but MC finishing first and Marine King finishing last. This is something I would have called anyone crazy and mad, and I would have taken any bet if someone would have actually offered it to me.
I would have done the same. Well, now we have half of our round of 8. Next week, we will have 2 more groups to decide who gets into the rest of the brackets. Of course, Tesos will be back to that. But tomorrow, you and I are going to be here casting GSTL.
Exactly. Tomorrow we have the Team League again, not only tomorrow but the day after that as well. And here is Group C. This is going to be next week with Genius, Naniwa, Keen, and Björn. Okay, Ghost King, this is going to be really good.
Yeah, should be awesome.
Tomorrow, actually, we have our foreigners, don't we? We have Team Fnatic, and especially Moon was performing so well for Fnatic in the recent past, so that's going to be a very, very exciting game.
Yeah. Unfortunately for foreigner fans, none of Fnatic's foreigners are currently in Korea right now, so they won't be participating, but it's a foreign team, foreign-owned, and has a lot of foreigners on its roster. They're just not here in Korea currently. They're traveling elsewhere. But Fnatic versus MVP, they are really going to be tested against Dongrygu's might, man.
This is going to be a great match. It starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. KST. Once again, this is 11 a.m. for all the people in Europe, and means like 4 a.m. for the guys
and don't
at
forget,
the East Coast.
On Saturday, our match is going to be earlier. It's going to be 4 hours early. It's going to be Innis Hosa versus TSL. So make sure you tune in for that as well. It's going to be a great weekend of Team League matches.
It was a pleasure casting for you guys today. You can always check us out at ProxyWall, for myself at Caldo on Twitter. I hope that you have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you tomorrow with the GSL. Bye-bye.